Hey everyone, welcome to my channel Facile Tech. This tutorial is part of the Clean Code in Dart series, and today I will be teaching you about what are value objects and the importance of creating them. We will also cover the rules and guidelines that should be followed while creating value objects. Before we jump straight to the topic, let me show you what are the different type of objects we can have in our code base. In the practical world of programming, we classify objects in the following categories: service objects, entity objects, value objects, and data transfer objects. Service objects are the objects that either perform a task or return a piece of information. They will be created only once and used any number of times. These objects work with or require the following objects to perform a specific task. Some examples of service objects are repository, file logger, database manager. Now coming to entity objects, these objects are the application's core objects. They represent important concepts from the business domain like an invoice, a product, or a bank account. Value objects are immutable objects which wrap primitive type values like string, int to represent a custom type in your application. Some aspect of the entity object are represented by value objects as well. Coming to data transfer object, they just hold data, that is primitive type values, and have no significant behavior. They don't have design rules that are as strong as the rules for entity and value objects. I will be explaining in depth about the other three type of objects in my upcoming videos. For now, let's learn about value objects. So the most common way of creating a user class with two required fields would be something like this. You create a Dart file, you name it user, you create the class user, and then you define two properties. One is name and the second one is mobile number, and then you have your constructor which will be initializing the properties, and you are done. So this is one of the most common ways I have seen people creating a user class with two required fields. So there is a problem in this approach. Not one, but there are a few more. So first is, if someone tries to use this class, for example, let me just show you an example here. If he is creating a user, and now since it is taking two string as an argument, you can pass phone number as the name, and you can pass the name as the phone number. Now you have created a bug in your application. Since phone number goes as name and name goes as mobile number, because both were taking string and it has met the requirement, your program is not complaining about it. So this is one bug you have created intentionally or unintentionally. Now let me show you some other problem with this approach. You can see both the properties are exposed, since as of now you don't know whether the name and mobile number will be used outside this class or not. So this is one more problem. Not a problem, but I would say a bad practice, because you don't know who will be using it and how it will be used. So you are just exposing the property unnecessarily. Now the third problem is you are passing strings as an argument, and you may end up passing an invalid name and mobile number, and you may create an invalid user or something that should not exist, and you may end up creating a bug as well. So there are no validations on these strings. You may have to write some extra code somewhere while using this user, or somewhere before you're passing this value. So you have to write some kind of validation, but that is not the responsibility of other classes. Those responsibility should belong to the value object name and the value object mobile number. So we will see what is the right approach of creating a user class with these two required fields. In the recommended approach, you won't start by creating classes for user or mobile number or name, but instead you will follow the TDD approach and begin writing test cases to build up mobile number and name value objects. So let's start first with the test case for mobile number. So right click on the test folder and create a dart file and name it as mobile number underscore test. Now let me quickly create the template for the test cases. Group will hold a set of tests, so the test only belongs to the mobile number. So the group is like a mobile number group. All the tests associated with the mobile number will reside in that group, and the body will hold all the different test cases. So the very first test that we will be writing is, if we create a mobile number instance, it should not have empty data in it. So let me start by creating the first test. Let me pass the description and mobile number with empty data should throw assertion error. So this test makes sure that when you create a mobile number, it should validate that you do not pass an empty data and make an incomplete mobile instance. So I will write the first test, and this is going to be a feeding test because we are following the TDD approach, that is the red green refactor. And then we will write throws a is. So I want to make sure that if an empty data is provided to the mobile number instance, it should throw an error. So you can see that there is a error showing that mobile number does not exist. So this is a failing test. We will just run it. So now once this test fails, then we will create the mobile number class and just write the minimum code to make it pass. So you can see we got some error saying that there doesn't exist, so it's not found. So let's create it in the right directory, create a dart file, name it mobile number, and then create a class called mobile number. And as you can see in the test, I have not used a normal constructor, I use a factory constructor. So what is the reason behind using a factory constructor? So the reason is, when you talk to your business domain expert, he won't be saying you construct a mobile number, he will be telling you create a mobile number. So these are the keywords you need to understand and capture while talking to your business domain expert, and use those keywords to create your methods or classes. So let me go back here, and first let me make sure that the primary constructor is private, and then we make a factory constructor, and then it should take string as data, string mobile number, and then let me make this as private. We should not be exposing it until unless it's really required. So let me rename this to mobile number, and then if the mobile number is null or mobile number is empty, throw assertion error saying cannot, or you can say invalid mobile number, and then it's expecting us to return mobile per instance. So this makes sure that you do not pass a mobile number which is empty, and this will make sure that you always create a mobile number that exists. Now let me just import this, and now let me run the test again. As you can see, the test is passing. So this is the first test. Now we will write another test where you will be creating a mobile number when mobile number with digit greater than 10. So I'm assuming that the mobile number will have 10 digits as a maximum, and it should not be more than that. And then I will just just let me complete the statement here. Should throw assertion error. Now I will just write the failing test again. Throws a is a assertion error. Okay, and then I'll just write mobile number dot create, and I'll pass 1 2 3 6 7 8 9 10 and then 11, and then I think I'm missing a bracket. Yeah, so let me run this test and see whether it's failing or not. Yeah, as you can see, it's failing. It was expecting an assertion, but there was no assertion. It basically passed. So here you were able to create a mobile number whose validation failed. Like basically you created a mobile number which should not exist. So let me write the minimum code to make it pass. If mobile number dot length is greater than 10, throw assertion error, mobile number is too big. And then so this is basically lint saying me not to use double quotes but to use single quotes. Okay, so let me run the test again and see whether it's passing or not. Okay, so it passed. Now let me also check whether the previous test is also passing or not. So both tests are passing, and now let's move to the third test case. This test case will make sure that you do not create mobile number whose digits are less than 10. So let me write the test for it. When mobile number with digits less than 10 should throw assertion error. Now let me just write the test for this. So it should expect an assertion, an instance of an assertion. So E will check that the instance you are getting is an assertion error instance. And now let me create mobile number dot create. Let me pass 2, 3, 4. And now let me run this test. It should fail because we don't have any code that will check that the mobile number should not be created with digits less than 10. So let me just write the minimum code to make this test pass. Dot length should not be less than 10. Throw assertion error. Mobile number too short. So it's a short mobile number and it's not valid, and it should throw an error immediately. So whenever you create value objects, you should first write the negative scenarios where it can make the mobile number instance inconsistent. So if you pass some argument which is not valid, you should immediately throw an error or catch the exception and tell the developer that it cannot be created. So this validation should not exist anywhere else, but it should reside in the class mobile number. Same goes for the name and other value objects. So the validation should reside within the class itself. Now let me run the test again. And let's see if it passes. Yeah, so it's passing. And we should also make sure that all the test cases that we have previously written should also pass. So as you can see, all the 3 tests are passing and we have not broken the code as of now. So the next test case will check whether the mobile number you are passing as an argument are all digits or not. So let me quickly write another test where I will mention when mobile number are non-numeric, then it should throw assertion error. So now we will write expect. So and the matcher is throws an assertion error, so the type should be an assertion error. And the code for it is mobile number dot create, and you try to pass a 10-digit alphabetical characters ABC. So we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let's see whether it should be failing. So yeah, so we were expecting an assertion error, but it passed. Basically it created a mobile instance, and we need to fix this. So let's write the condition for this. So int dot try parse. So we will try to parse the mobile number, the argument which the user has provided, and if it is able to parse it into an int, then it's a valid mobile number. Basically it's a valid digits. It is not other than the digits basically. So mobile number should be, if it is null, that means it failed to parse, and it is not just digit but there are some special characters, basically the alphabetical character or something else which should not exist. Throw assertion error, mobile number should contain only digits. Now let me quickly run the test and see whether it's passing or not. Yeah, so now we also have the validation where we check whether the mobile number are all digits or not. So let me again run all the test cases to make sure that we have not broken any other test case while implementing this new feature. So all the test cases have been passed. Now let's move on to the last test case, and this is something very specific to Dart. So what I will do is I will try to check whether two mobile number instances are equal or not. So when two mobile number instances have same value, should return true in equality check. So let me create two mobile number instance. First number, mobile number dot create, and now let me pass the mobile number 9, 10. So this is a valid mobile number, and the second number dot create, and let me pass the same mobile number, and let's see whether both are same or not. Expect the actual first number equals second number, and now let me try to run this, and the assertion failed. So even though you have the same mobile number, since these two are two different instances and that doesn't check the value within the class but it checks the instance, and both instances are different, so they are not basically equal. Now how we can resolve this? So let me go to the code base and let me just generate some code that is hash and equal to. Now you have the equality check based on the data you provide instead of checking the instances. Now let me quickly run this and see. Okay, so now the equality is based on the data it is carrying and not based on the memory allocation or the instances. So we have the test cases ready for the mobile number value object, and the value object with all the validation is also ready. So always make sure that you always have a named constructor, that is a factory constructor, and use a name which often is used by the business domain expert, and make the primary constructor private. And always make sure that whenever you are creating the instance, it should always be a valid instance. It should not create mobile number with an invalid state, with an invalid argument. So these checks will make sure that your mobile number is always valid. And then, since that equality is a bit different, so you have to override the operator in the hash code to make it work. So now let's move on to the next value object, that is the name value object, and let's write the test case for it, and in the same way we build up the name value objects. Create a new dot file under the test folder and name it as name underscore test. Now we'll follow the same template. We'll create a group and the description will be name value object, and this group will hold the test cases for the name value object. So the first test case that I can think of is we should start by validating that the argument that you will be passing to the class should be valid. So the first thing I want to make sure that you do not pass an empty name or empty data as an argument and create a invalid name class. So when create name with empty data should throw assertion error, and we will write the expect just a second. Okay, I think we are facing okay, I think there was some issue with the IDE. Basically throws is a instance of assertion error. Now let me just write the code for it. So name dot create, and this will take an empty data. As you can see, you're getting the red error because you don't have the class created. So just let me run it so that the test should fail. That is the first thing of TD, is to make the test fail and then make it green by writing the minimum code and then refactor if necessary. So we have to create the class name. So inside the right directory, I'll create a dart file, name it as name, and let me just quickly create a class of it, class name, which will have a variable or a field called name. Make sure it should always be private. Only make it public if it is required. Don't expose properties unnecessarily. Now the first rule is to make sure that you don't use primary constructor. As I said earlier, your business expert will talk in general English, so he won't tell you construct a name, he will tell you to create a name or make a name. So I'll use a factory constructor for it. I'll pass the argument, and now let me complete this and the first check which I have written in the test case is name should not be null. If name is null and name is empty, throw assertion error, invalid name. Now let me just return the object of name and let me pass so now you can create name which cannot be empty or which cannot be null basically. So you will have some string here, but we will also add some more validation and we'll make sure that improper names are not created. So let me just okay, so I think we are facing some issues and understanding. Import package value object write name dot, and now let me run this. As you can see, the test has passed, and I think we don't have to refactor. So let's move to the next test case. That is basically I will be assuming that I will have a name which will have a maximum character of 7. Total characters will be 7 and the minimum will be 3. So the maximum character you can enter is 7 and the minimum will be 3. So so let me just quickly write the test case for that. When name is greater than 7 character, should throw assertion error. And now I will write the test for it. Throws a is assertion error. And now let me just quickly write the let me create the name instance and let me pass name which is greater than 7 characters. So let me run this and it should be failing. Yeah, so the test case says there was no assertion and it basically took the name which was having more than 7 characters, but for us that is invalid, and hence we will be writing the validation for this. So if name dot length is greater than 7, okay, greater than 7, throw assertion error saying name is too long. Now let me run the test case for this and it passed. So now let's quickly move to the third test case saying when name is less than 3 character, should throw assertion error. Now I think I can mostly copy the same here so let me save some time. I'll just copy, paste here and then replace it with the number of characters. So The input is just 2 characters here, and let me run this. So I'm expecting it should throw an assertion, but it won't, because we don't have the minimum code to validate that. So let me just quickly add the validation logic here. If less than 3 should throw assertion error, name is too short. Now let me quickly run this test, and the test case has passed. Now we will also write the test case to check the equality between two name instances. The same thing which we done for mobile number, where two instances were not equal even though they had the same argument, because they were allocated different memory, and that's the reason they were not equal. But we will override the equality operator and the hash code to make sure that the equality is done based on the data or the argument that has been provided. So when two user name instance, or not user but two name instance have same value, should return true in equality check. And we will write the first name dot create, will pass facile, will create the second name and same argument. And now let's check whether both instances are same or not. So first name equals second name, and now let me run the test case here. So the test has failed, so it was actually checking both the instances, but we want to make sure that the equality should be done based on the argument or the data it is holding. So I'll just generate the hash code and the not generate, basically override and add the implementation for it. And now let me just run this. As you can see, the test has passed. Now we are ready with the user value object and the mobile value object. These can be now used to create the final class, that is the user class. So I will just quickly show you like by creating the user class for this. So this will now have, instead of string, it will have mobile number, and then it will have name. Let me just quickly import. I don't know why my ID is not auto importing them. Let me just write it down really quick. Okay, mobile number, import name. Now as you can see, you have a strong type here. Both are not string, both are not of the same type, and you won't be making the mistake of passing wrong data to the wrong argument. So earlier we were having two strings and you can pass anything to it. Basically you can pass mobile number to name and name to mobile number. But now if you, for example, if you create a user instance, you will have this dot name, this dot mobile number, and if you are using it anywhere, for example if you are using it like this, now you can see in the auto completion part it's very clear that you cannot pass the wrong data here. So it will tell you have to pass instance of type name and then instance of type mobile number. So you cannot just pass strings, it will just complain you because they have some strong type there. So this is one of the biggest advantage you will have, and it will be very clear for you to use it throughout your code base. And the validations are at one place, that is inside the class where the instance will be created. So you are holding the so basically you are having a very high cohesive classes, and that's a good indication of a clean code. So this is how you will basically use value objects, and make sure that you always create such kind of strong types in your code base that will help you in a longer journey. So now let's understand what are the design rules that we need to follow to create value objects, so that will be the final wrap up, and you understand the things that you need to follow while creating a value object. So coming to the final slide of this video, you can see we have some design rules to create value objects. So the very first rule you need to follow is you should create value objects that are immutable. All the properties that you define inside a value object class should be final. They should not change state within itself. So for example, if you see primitive types like int, string, double, those do not change its state, like it do not change one of its instances do not change its property, and if you want to add new data or you want to update it, you basically create a new int, you basically create a new string. I hope you got my point here. So you don't update the same instance, you create a new instance. So make sure your value objects are always immutable and you don't update the same instance. The second point is wrap only primitive data types. So value object should only hold primitive data type as properties. You should not have value objects inside value objects. So avoid that and always have string int as your property inside them. And basically you are trying to create custom type based on the primitive types. So as you saw in this presentation, we had mobile number and name as strings, but it should have a custom type. So we wrap those strings inside a custom class naming mobile number and name. Now the third rule is always test constructor with invalid arguments. As I use the approach to create the value object, that is the mobile number and name, so I tested all the invalid scenarios that can bring mobile number and name into an invalid state. So I first removed those scenarios, and then I was having the final version with a class that can create a valid mobile number and name always. So coming to the fourth point, only add arguments to the constructor if required. So you should not add as many arguments just because you have the access to, because at the end of the day it won't be used, and you may realize that these are never required. For example, in the value object name you may enter first name, last name, middle name. So in my opinion those should be a different value object and should be used differently. They should not be added as arguments in the same value object name. But it's still opinionated, but I would prefer it to be having a different value object. Then coming to the fifth point, expose properties only if required by other clients. So basically, as we started with hiding the properties, so the name and the mobile number were hidden within the class since I was not using it at that very moment. So if there is a requirement by any other client or maybe by any other code base, you expose them, but make sure that those are not mutable, those are immutable and cannot be updated by any other client. So these were the design rules to create value objects. I hope you understood what are the importance of creating a value object and how it can help you become a better programmer and keep your code base clean. So make sure you follow this, and I hope that will help you in your next project or in the current project you are working on. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell notification to get notified for the upcoming videos. Peace.